Video games are progressively getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Such is a side effect of increasing technological power, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing. After all, a bigger file size equals a better game, right? This might not be the case for everyone, but a larger file size does typically correlate to better graphics. However, when someone buys a video game, they expect to be able to play it. The problem of waiting for a 100 GB file to download is an increasing problem for gamers, but that doesn't seem to be a problem for developers. With that in mind, these are the biggest Xbox One games by file size. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a monster of a video game, and it comes equipped with a suitably monstrous installation size. With all the updates done over the years, the listed required space on the Xbox website measures 84 GB. This isn't particularly out of the ordinary today, and many games have since surpassed it in size, including one of Rockstar's other popular franchises, Red Dead Redemption 2. Between updates and expansions, the game can fluctuate in size. Giving up almost 90 GB for a game that is now already 10 years old, being released in 2013, might be a bridge too far for most gamers out there. Mass Effect is one of BioWare's most beloved franchises. What makes the Legendary Edition file size so big is the fact that it includes all 3 base games in the series, along with 40 DLC packs. Moreover, it has been remastered to be able to run in 4K Ultra HD, which contributes toward the big file size. Nevertheless, for die-hard fans of this critically acclaimed franchise, 93 GB might not be too much hard drive space to sacrifice, since it does after all include 3 games and not only 1. Although sports games are entertaining and beloved by millions of players worldwide, it's undeniable that the changes between one year's installment and the next have fewer changes than titles in other genres and their sequels. NBA 2K23 understood this perfectly and innovated in the areas it could by introducing new game modes, gameplay improvements, and a few more features, some of which were removed in subsequent installments. Standing at 95 GB for the Xbox One, NBA 2K23 isn't even close to being the largest game on this list, but considering that most games back in the Xbox 360 era were in the 9 to 25 GB range, this is quite a stretch. Forza Motorsport 7 garnered a bit of controversy when people realized it came with an unbelievable 95 GB install at the time of its release. That sort of thing is typically reserved for massive open world games, not for a simple racing title. Of course, this hefty size requirement includes 4K texture packs. The Blu-ray disc itself held about 45 GB of data, but Forza Motorsport 7 also required an additional 50 GB download, hence those texture packs. One could play the game without it, however. Those who wanted the definitive Forza experience were forced to cough up the extra 50 GB in hard drive space. Halo is obviously Microsoft's and the Xbox's ace in the hole. It is also the one thing that Sony and the PlayStation can't get their hands on. Fans have plenty of theories about the next chapter in Master Chief and Cortana's saga, even if many don't regard Halo 5 as a total winner in the series. The problem with Halo 5 being a bit of a middling game is that it has a file size of about 100 GB. A game this old would only warrant that if it was one people wanted to revisit over and over again. Fortunately for Microsoft and Xbox, fans have Halo Infinite in the Halo arsenal to enjoy. Quantum Break, the fast-paced, mind-bending, time-splitting game, is not 3 games in one, like Mass Effect Legendary Edition, nor is it an open-world game like The Elder Scrolls Online, and so it is surprising that it eats up over 100 GB of storage space on Xbox. Even though Quantum Break was well received in 2016 when it was first released, over 100 GB of storage space might be too much to ask for an old game that is not an MMORPG. Since it is on Xbox Game Pass though, first-person shooter fans that have not played it before might want to give it a shot. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a gargantuan, realistic recreation of the American countryside. It was many years in the making, the graphics are otherworldly, and Rockstar delivered on their promised open-world experience like no other. It was clear that this beast was going to eat up some prime hard drive real estate, so it came as no big shock when its base size was 88 GB. As of now, the game is up to around 105 GB in total size, but no one can resist the disarmingly ornery yet charming Arthur Morgan and the vast open-world possibilities that the game offers. Warhammer Vermintide 2 is a great Horde-style co-op game to play with friends. Slashing through crowds of anthropomorphic rat creatures while slinging fireballs never really gets old. However, in tandem with its latest updates, the total file size of Vermintide 2 is about 112 GB. People who love to play multiple games at one time might want to avoid this one, despite how fun the gameplay is, especially when other newer titles like Diablo 4 are available. The Forza franchise has been regarded as one of the best in racing for years, but what developer Playground Games achieved with Forza Horizon 5 completely changed the game in many ways. Set in a fictional version of Mexico, this title allows players to race across highways and Mexican cities that are designed with great attention to detail and faithfulness to their real-life counterparts. With an approximate file size of 116 GB on the Xbox One, Forza Horizon 5 is, without a doubt, a top contender on this list, so players will have to erase some old games from their hard drive in order to install it. Gears 5 gave fans another excellent installment into the franchise with plenty of chainsaw guns and surprisingly emotional moments. There is even an update that transforms Marcus Fenix into Dave Bautista, believe it or not. But the game sticks out as having one of the larger file size requirements available. The good news is that Gears 5 is one of those install it, play it through all the way once, and then leave it alone for a while kind of games. If players want to revisit it, they can just re-download it later. Any game that has a sprawling world for players to explore will undoubtedly take up tons of space on a hard drive. Given the nature of Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's always going to take up serious real estate. But most players would agree that the sacrifice is well worth it. Many fans were indeed excited when it was announced that this game would also get an Xbox One release. After all, the game renders the world as it is in reality with stunning graphics. Many people who pick up the title just like to cruise around places they've never been to or seen before. It also provides a great change of pace from FPS or RPG titles. Unfortunately, that 127 GB is a substantial amount to give up for it. Bungie is all in on making Destiny 2 one of the biggest and most played hybrid MMO shooter titles for years to come, despite various Destiny 2 controversies in the past, some of which included microtransactions and cosmetics. Bungie continues to release regular updates and expansions for the game. The game has seen a few expansions since the original launch in 2017, each with varying degrees of fun and success. However, the expansions and updates brought the total file size of Destiny 2 up to around a massive 130 GBs. With other great sci-fi RPG games out there, like Starfield, some might feel that this is too much space to sacrifice. If the file size for Halo 5 seemed unreasonable, one should take a hard look at Gears of War 4. Gears of War is another Microsoft IP, and Gears of War 4 served as both the first Gears of War game on the Xbox One and the first for the franchise in 5 years. People were willing to make some room on their hard drives, but maybe not this much. When all was said and done, people were forking over about 130 GB in hard drive space to hold Gears 4 on their consoles. This is just a bit unacceptable for some people when it comes to a simple third-person shooter. More RPGs tend to be out there in terms of hard drive space, since an inherent feature of these games is an open world. Moreover, the game has constant updates and connects people from all over the world. That always requires resources and power, but luckily players can choose how much space they give up. Elder Scrolls Online hovers between 85 GB, 140 GB in file size, depending on which features, upgrades, or expansions players want. For die-hard Elder Scrolls fans, keeping this on their console is a no-brainer. But for the average player, this is likely too much space to relinquish for one game. Halo 5 Guardians is not the only Halo game that makes the list of largest game file sizes for Xbox One. Released in 2014, the Master Chief Collection consists not of one, but of 6 huge Halo games from Halo Reach all the way to Halo 4. For hardcore Halo fans, the huge 134 GB of storage space that this collection requires might be a small sacrifice to make, as Halo remains one of the definitive game franchises released for Xbox. Since this is also a collection, and not only one game like some of the other 100 GB plus entries on this list are, 134 GB does not seem unreasonable. The long-asked question, what if one could fight using dinosaurs and guns, finally got answered with Ark Survival Evolved. Okay, so the question isn't that old or popular, but the game has addictive gameplay and still gets regular updates even today. As such, it requires more and more real estate on the Xbox One hard drive. Right now, it requires a whopping 155 GB of space, a sacrifice only the most dedicated fans of the game are willing to make on their consoles. Black Ops Cold War is the sequel to one of the most loved Call of Duty games to date, Call of Duty Black Ops, perhaps owing to its wide variety of game modes, as well as its extensive campaign, which includes real historical figures from various geographical areas from the 1980s. The game file size is a massive 158 GB. Unfortunately, the game was not so well received by die-hard Call of Duty fans, and some players might therefore find it difficult to justify giving up so much hard drive space for the game.